What's good? Welcome in. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for rocking with us. Coming your way on today's show, I'm going to get in the shoes of John Lynch, and I put together the 49ers' perfect NFL free agency plan with the tampering period starting on Monday and then the official league year starting on Wednesday. And speaking of that, what is the biggest area of need on this Niners roster heading into free agency? I'm going to break down some of those needs that I think the Niners have on this team, but you let me know and join the conversation down in the comment section right now. Without further ado, let's get it underway. We already did our perfect offseason plan, but things have changed since we did that about a month and a half ago. Now it's time for the perfect free agency plan. I think it's paramount. I think it's really, really important for this organization to prioritize getting edge help for rusher Nick Bosa, to just help him out a little bit and not allow him to get tired and wear down like he did the final month of this past season. Get him a premium talent on the other side of that defensive line of scrimmage. And luckily for San Francisco, this is a really deep edge rusher class. Frank Clark has officially been released by the Kansas City Chiefs. I'd love to see him come into the Bay Area, third all time in the playoffs with sack numbers. Bud Dupree, injured a lot, really talented edge rusher, though. Didn't live up to those expectations of that fat contract he signed a couple of years ago with the Tennessee Titans. Leonard Floyd with the Los Angeles Rams, 3 consecutive seasons in which he has at least 9 sacks. Marcus Davenport was really good 2 years ago. This past year, a little bit of a down year. Yannick Ngakoue, we're about to talk about him because I think he's an ideal fit next to Nick Bosa. Charles Omenihu, Samson Ebukam, 2 guys along this Niners defensive line who have had really good production in this defense. They understand the scheme, but because they perform really well, they have an opportunity to cash in free agency. A familiar face in Arden Key. Got paid last offseason by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Could he come back and give you the versatility that Omenihu has had for this team the last year and a half as a guy who can play defensive end and defensive tackle? If Omenihu leaves for more money, maybe his replacement is a guy like Arden Key. Brandon Graham is going to be 35 years old this upcoming season, but did have a career-high 11 sacks. And Justin Houston, right in that age bracket with Brandon Graham, but like BG, the production with bringing down the quarterback and pressuring the quarterback has continued. The good news for San Francisco, and I think this is one of the biggest priorities for this football team outside of finding a way to get the quarterback position right or just figuring it out because you don't know what the situation is with Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, is this is a good free agency edge class, and it's really, really deep. But the guy I really like is Yannick Ngakoue. Ever since he's come into the league, the production has been there. I think he's somewhat underrated. And he's also still young, only 27 years old, so a lot of gas left in the tank for a player who continues to emerge. And as you can see here, the sack production has been there throughout his career and each of the last 4 years as he's played on a bunch of different teams. Minnesota Vikings, Las Vegas Raiders, the Indianapolis Colts, Baltimore Ravens. It's odd that he hasn't been able to find a home, but an ideal home for me and for him, I think in this scheme, it's the San Francisco 49ers. 2019, 8 sacks. 2020, 8 more. 2021, 10. And last year, 9.5 sacks with 16 quarterback hits, 8 tackles for loss, and 1 forced fumble. Can you imagine what he's able to do opposite of Nick Bosa, getting a lot of one-on-ones, and then in turn, what Nick Bosa is able to do with a lot of one-on-ones for him, because you can't double-team both of these players along that defensive line because then your defensive tackles are just going to run wild, and it just doesn't make sense from an offensive perspective. For Ngakoue, 65 sacks in 110 career games, still only 27 years old. Step number 2 to perfecting this free agency period for the Niners, figure out the offensive line. You have 2 big question marks at center and right tackle, and a little bit of a question mark at right guard. But I do believe that Spencer Burford is going to be able to develop into a good player, and I think he showed flashes of that this past season. But what's interesting here is that the offensive line market is going to be fascinating to monitor once free agency comes around, because a lot of teams across the league are desperate for offensive line help. And Mike McGlinchey has an opportunity to get paid. According to Pro Football Focus, they did contract projections for all of these big ticket free agents, and they're in line with my thoughts. I've said I think McGlinchey can get $15 to $18 million per year. They have him locked in at getting 15 and a half. But there are some players who the Niners could get who might be a little bit cheaper than Mike McGlinchey, because I do think that the former top 10 pick out of Notre Dame, who certainly had a Jekyll and Hyde career with San Francisco, is loved by some, liked by others, and hated by other fans. He's going to be a little bit out of the San Francisco 49ers price range. So that's why I think signing Isaiah Wynn from the New England Patriots could work out really well for this football team. Pro Football Focus's projection for him, $10.5 million per year. So if it ends up playing out that way, San Francisco able to save about $5 million and get a player with a lot of pedigree who hasn't really played all that well and has certainly been up and down throughout his career with the New England Patriots, but San Francisco has done a good job of developing offensive linemen. Here are the top free agent tackles who are set to hit the free agency market. Orlando Brown, probably the cream of the crop here, but I think he's going to get paid between $18 and $20 million per year. Mike McGlinchey, I have him slated for $15 to $18 million. Donovan Smith from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just released on Tuesday by that organization. That frees up $10 million of cap space on their books. Jawan Taylor, I think he's going to get paid as well. Caleb McGarry was not franchise tagged by the Atlanta Falcons. You have Isaiah Wynn, Kelvin Beachum, Jermaine Illuminor, Cameron Fleming, and George Fant. Some of the players on this list could be had for San Francisco. As for Isaiah Wynn, wasn't great last year. But in this system, I think he's a scheme fit, and I think the Niners as an organization would be able to elevate his play. 423 total snaps, 9 penalties, 4 sacks allowed, 2 quarterback hits, 17 total pressures. And the Pro Football Focus grades, not pretty. Overall grade of 54.5, pass blocking grade of 52.8, run blocking grade of 63.2. I just think it comes down to this simple fact, that McGlinchey is out of the Niners price range. And John Lynch pretty much said that from the NFL Scouting Combine. He believes that his market is going to be pretty handsome. And I find it hard to believe, and I just won't understand this if the Niners go this route, that they might go internally with either Colton McKivitz at right tackle or Nick Zakelj, the draft pick from last year, because this is a Niners front that got dominated by the Dallas Cowboys and their good defensive line. And then the Eagles' defensive line was able to overpower them as well. How do you see that at the stage of the divisional round and the NFC Championship game and not want to upgrade that offensive front? It's time for Kyle Shanahan and this organization to stop prioritizing scheme over offensive line talent. And I hope they address that this offseason. They should follow my 49ers free agency offseason plan. If you're pumped up for free agency, type me. I can't wait. Again, Monday is the tampering period. That's when we're going to start to hear these deals trickle out. And when that happens, you can expect shows and live shows here on the channel. And then Wednesday, those deals become official. Today's show is sponsored by Athletic Greens. I take AG1 every single day, and it sets the foundation for the rest of my day. It's helped improve my gut health. It's helped me sustain my energy. It's boosted my immune system. And if you're looking for a comprehensive solution, AG1 is where it's at. Head to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. I gave it a try because given my work schedule at Chat Sports combined with my training regimen as I'm on a mission to run every day for a year straight, I wanted sustained energy. I wanted to stay healthy by keeping my immune system strong so that I can strive toward my professional work life and personal fitness goals as I'm closing in on 300 straight days on my running streak. I take AG1 every morning as part of my routine, and it sets the table for the rest of my day. I've also really prioritized my health over the last couple of years. That's why I love AG1, and get this, it's 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients. I mix 1 small scoop of AG1 with water, drink it first thing each morning or before and after my workouts. I also love that something that's this good for you, one body, one life, costs less than $3 a day. So if a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then Athletic Greens is giving the Niner Gang a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. That's what I was using on Super Bowl Radio Row. So head to athleticgreens.com/chatsports. Check it out. The link is available in the comment section and in the description of this video. Next up on the perfect free agency plan for the Niners, Get center right. And that goes in line with getting offensive line right. Like the edge class, the center class is pretty good with some solid players. You have Jason Kelce, you have Ethan Pocic, you have Connor McGovern, Garrett Bradbury, Bradley Bozeman, as well as Jake Brendel. And Pocic is a guy who I think is a really good player who's trending upwards and is probably the best center on the market. Because I think that Jason Kelce, he's a lifelong Eagle, future Hall of Famer. He's going to return to Philadelphia if he does not retire. Let's take a look at his numbers in 2022 for Ethan. 819 total snaps, 1 penalty, 2 sacks allowed, 0 hits allowed, 10 total pressures, and Pro Football Focus grades of a 79 overall, pass blocking grade of 71.5, and a run blocking grade of 79.1. Kevin Stefanski likes to run a similar system of Kyle Shanahan, and I think that he is a fantastic scheme fit. The 49ers, while Jake Brendel did play well, they missed the presence from Alex Mack. Well, here's your replacement right here. Before we continue to move forward on today's show, make sure you subscribe for more offseason coverage, free agency buzz, NFL draft prospect analysis. And when breaking news happens, we go deeper, longer, and better than any other Niners channel out there. So subscribe, lock us in. It's the 49ers Report as we're closing in on 80,000 subscribers. Next up, defensive tackle depth. We've talked about this a lot throughout this offseason. This is an area of focus that the Niners have to get right because they got pushed around by a really good Eagles offensive line in the NFC Championship game. And along the same line, you just got to cut bait with Javon Kinlaw. Take your losses, admit that he's a bust, hasn't been able to stay healthy, and eat that money that you were owed to him. Because him occupying a roster spot, I actually think it's just not advantageous for this football team, and I don't see how he's going to round into form. Realistic defensive tackle targets. We could talk about, a Javon Hargrave, but he's going to get between $18 and $20 million. That's out of the Niners' price range as well. Larry Ogunjobi from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Matt Ioannidis is a player who I happen to like. T for Temple U, what up? Michael Brockert's got released by the Detroit Lions. He's a good depth piece. You could get Fletcher Cox 1 year for like $7 million if he decides to leave the only home that he's known with the Philadelphia Eagles. Or you could just decide to bring Hassan Ridgeway back, who was really good before suffering that season-ending pec injury. You bring back Ridgeway, and then you sign one of these other players. That's fulfilling the depth department at defensive tackle for this football team that will serve you against the pass and against the run. Of course, the big looming talking point this offseason for the Niners is that quarterback position. What's going to happen? Well, we don't know what's going to happen until Brock Purdy's surgery is official. He's going to get that surgery on Friday. At that point, the Niners will figure out whether it's a full Tommy John reconstruction or a repair. If it's a full reconstruction, that's full Tommy John surgery. He could be out about a calendar month. If it's the repair and hybrid surgery, he could be in line to maybe start week 1 and return in about 6 months, and then enter a throwing program at about the 3 or 4 month mark. After that, though, and once we figure out what that surgery is going to be, that's when the Niners will know their free agency plan at quarterback. And the surgery comes at a good time before free agency, because at that point, the Niners will know, do we need to trade for a quarterback? Do we need to sign a quarterback? Something to, of course, monitor. Re-sign Emmanuel Moseley. John Lynch, are you hearing me? Re-sign Emmanuel Moseley. I thought it was pretty funny how Nick Bosa was talking on the Richard Sherman podcast, and he was asked by Sherm how this Niners defense was going to be under Steve Wilkes in 2023. He said, I think that we can even be better. He said, Emmanuel Moseley's going to be back, but Nick Bosa, Emmanuel Moseley is a free agent. Do you know something that we don't know? Moseley, for some teams out there, I firmly believe this, can be like a 1B cornerback, and if you have him as a number 2 cornerback, even better. Him and Charvarius Mooney-Ward would form one of the better cornerback duos in the game. He's coming off that torn ACL, but before that, in 2021 and to start the year in 2022, he was legitimately, statistically playing like one of the best cornerbacks in all of football. As for Tashawn Gibson at that safety position, he is an affordable option as we stick in the secondary here, and this too, a deep safety free agency class. I think this comes down to how much money the Niners want to pay at that position. You have Talanoa Hufanga on his rookie contract, but he's only got 4 years on that rookie contract, and he's entering year 3. So at some point, you might have to think about paying him. Jimmy Ward going to be a free agent. Outside of that, some really, really good safeties. If you value that position and you want to invest money in that position opposite of Talanoa Hufanga. Obviously, for Tashaun Gipson, he was spectacular last year. But do you want to upgrade with another player on that list, like a Jessie Bates, a Jordan Poyer, a CJ Gardner-Johnson, or Von Bell? Jimmy Ward showed that he could play slot corner as well as safety, and I think that added to his versatility and his value. A guy like CJ Gardner-Johnson has a lot of that same value as well, and like Jimmy Ward, has that swagger and is a dog. If we could take a look at Gibson's numbers, he did have a near all-pro year, so to bring him back would certainly make financial sense if you want to put your money and invest it elsewhere. 5 interceptions for a guy who was signed to the practice squad originally right before the year, 8 pass breakups, 0 touchdowns allowed in coverage, allowed a passer rating when targeted of 53 on 768 coverage snaps. A guy like Jessie Bates, a guy like CJ Gardner-Johnson, they would elevate this defense. But do you go with the familiar face who knows the scheme into Tashaun Gipson? With that, our final question here for today's show. How many games will the Niners win in 2023? Let us know down in the comment section and predict it a way too early season prediction.